Hi folks and welcome to Truck King. With me this week is the Jeep Wrangler 4xE. Now I've been living with this thing exactly like my family would, taking it to get groceries, running into the city, and then just behind it, yes, that's a brand new Yamaha Grizzly. I use this Jeep to go pick that ATV up. So with all of that information, I want to talk about how efficient this 4xE is, but then maybe most importantly, is it actually worth it to get this Wrangler? And what kind of lifestyle do you have to live to actually save money on a plug-in hybrid? Well, there's lots to dive into. Let's get into it right now. Let's start this one with a quick walk around. Now this is the Jeep Wrangler Sahara 4xE, and the Sahara is all about styling and on-road presence, and I do think this thing looks pretty good. The purple color is pretty wild. Jeep calls it Rain, R-E-I-G-N, Rain. I don't know why, but there you go. Now because it's the 4xE, you get those blue accents, so you get the blue tow hooks, and then because it's Wrangler Sahara, you get body color everything, including the fenders. You also get those nice blacked out wheels, and in our model we have the running boards and then the power one touch open sky roof, which is pretty cool. And then maybe most importantly, we also have the tow package, and I use this Jeep to go pick up this guy. That's a brand new Yamaha Grizzly 2023 special edition, fit with a whole bunch of accessories. So if you want to see more on this ATV, go check out our other channel, TK Power Sports. We'll be doing a full review, hopefully a comparison and a walk around, all really soon. But back to the Jeep. Again, I think it looks pretty sharp. Why don't you guys let me know what you think of the styling and the color here on this Sahara model. Before we go further and I get into all my different drives with the Wrangler 4xE, let's first look at the pricing together. So first of all, I'm going to pull this up right here. Here are the three different 4xE models available to us here in Canada. The pricing starts at $59,978 and it goes up to $64,978. Now we'll move over here and we can compare to the gas models. So a four-door Willys model, the base model in Canada is $55,085. Well, that is a $4,893 difference. As for the Sahara model, you're talking about a $3,688 difference. And for the Rubicon, it's $4,188 difference. So if you average those out, you're talking about around $4,200 going for the 4xE powertrain. It does depend on which trim you get. Now we can look at the US quickly too, because this is an interesting difference. In the States, the 4xE powertrain is quite a bit more expensive. So I'll pull it up right here. There are four 4xE models available, starting at Willys and going up to that high altitude 4xE. Again, starting price at $54,735. Now let's move over here and we can look at a four-door Willys model. That's right here, and you can see we've checked off four-door. That's $42,685, which means that the difference there for the Willys is $12,050 if you want to go for the 4xE package. Similarly, the Sahara in the States is going to cost you $10,000 for 4xE. The Rubicon, $13,000 to get the plug-in hybrid. And finally, that high altitude model, it's only $7,900 to get 4xE, but of course, it's the most expensive Wrangler that you can buy. So in the States, 4xE is quite a bit more expensive. Now, the one thing, you may have seen it, right on the Canadian website, it says that $2,500 has been knocked off the price in Canada, and that's thanks to incentives and government rebates. But even with that $25 tacked back on, it's still quite a bit more in the US. Now you know what it costs, let's talk about charging times. So here at my house, when I would plug the 4xE in, it would say it was going to take 13.5 hours. Now that's just level 1 charging, a regular 110 volt outlet in my garage. Now when I got over to Stellantis though to return the Jeep, they had a level 2 charger, and I'll show you what happened. Alrighty folks, so now we just pulled in here to FCA Canada, well now Stellantis, actually, they haven't changed their sign yet. And you can see our trip was 112 kilometers. We managed 9 liters per 100, just 19 all electric, but of course for a while it was running in hybrid mode. And what I want to do right now is plug this thing in, because they have some 30 amp level 2 chargers, and we'll see what the time says when we plug in one of these bad boys. So that's in there. It says charge. There's our light up on the dash. And now we can go look. And you can see with level 2 charging, 2 hours and 48 minutes till it's full, which is pretty reasonable. Now I'm going to go over some of the numbers that I got out of this Wrangler while I was driving it. So when it was fully charged, it would show 99% and 41 kilometers of all electric range. And the week that I had it, the temperature was always hovering between 0 and about 2 degrees Celsius, so it was kind of chilly. So 41 kilometers is what it showed, but honestly, I never got better than about 30 kilometers of all electric driving. And you can see right here, this is just a trip into the city, so it is mostly city driving, but I only managed 28.8 kilometers before I got this message, and I had to start using up gas again. So in the cold, yes, this thing is not super efficient. I don't know if it was just driving style or if it was more the climate, because I did have the heat on, I had the heated seats on, the heated steering wheel, and all that stuff is sucking up juice. I also did another test because I was curious about the heating system. So the Wrangler 4xE has a traditional heating system because it still has a gas engine, but it also has a resistance heater. Now basically that works like a hair dryer. It's going to heat up a metal coil, and then that heat is going to be blown into the cabin. It works well because you get instant or nearly instant heat, but it does not save on efficiency. These things use up a lot of power. So I started up the Wrangler and I put it into all electric mode, and you can see here it was -1 degree Celsius. The Wrangler was at 98%, showing 39 kilometers of range. And then just 11 minutes later, at 9:22 a.m., still at -1, the Wrangler had been set on auto to bring the temperature up to 21 degrees Celsius in the cabin. So running for that 11 minutes, it was down to 90% and 35 kilometers. So it lost 4 kilometers of range in 11 minutes, which is roughly 21 kilometers of loss in an hour. And considering I only got 28 kilometers of all electric range, you could kill your battery sitting around keeping this thing warm just using the all-electric system. Now, in total fairness, in the deep cold, you're probably best off to put it in hybrid or even e-save and use the gas engine to warm the cabin and not the electricity. But I was curious to see how efficient it was in all-electric mode if you really don't want to burn any gas, and the answer was, in the cold, not terribly efficient. And now our little towing test begins here in the 4xE. So I've got a utility trailer with a little baby snowmobile in it. That's probably about 1,200 pounds all in, maybe 1,300. So we're not really pushing the Wrangler too hard, but just enough to get a feel for what it's like towing. And maybe more importantly, of course, we're going to check the fuel economy. So we already went ahead and reset our trip. So we're ready to go. We'll be able to see what this Jeep does. And you can see my little guy back there. That's Otis. He's my adventure buddy today. He's coming with me because we're returning the snowmobile and we're picking up an ATV. So we're going to load a Yamaha Grizzly on back there and drive back. And what I'm actually going to do today is use the 4xE properly, the way I think an owner should and would, which is to say, right now I have it in all electric mode, and until I get to the highway around town, I'm gonna run it in all electric, and then when I hit the highway, I'm gonna put it on e-save, and I'm gonna try to save the battery for the other end of the drive, again around town when I'm off the highway. And driving this thing in all electric mode is nice. It's quiet, it's got plenty of power. Again, not a huge load, but electric motors are excellent for towing, so it gets it moving with no drama whatsoever. So we'll check back in soon enough and let you know how we do. Okay folks, now we're almost home, and yes, it's only about 3 degrees Celsius, but we've been through a long winter here, so we did open up the roof. The nice thing about this one-touch power roof is, as it says, one touch, and I can close it up. And this thing will work at speed, which is pretty great as well. So like I mentioned, we're just pulling back into the driveway. Otis and I have had a good adventure today. We picked up this Grizzly. Watch for the review on this Yamaha Grizzly over on TK Power Sports. That's our other channel if you didn't know it was out there. And now let me back it in, and then we will go over all of our numbers. And we are home. So you can see the numbers here. We did 200.5 kilometers. 30.9 of that were electric, 169.6 on gas, and we managed 12.7 liters per 100 kilometers. And then 12.7 is not a super efficient number, but of course that's what comes along with towing that trailer. So there you go, some real world numbers out of the 4xe. Another thing I want to touch on is the Max Regen button. Again, it's a physical button down here in the center stack. So without it on, the Jeep basically drives, again, what you'd expect normally from a Jeep Wrangler, meaning it just coasts when you lift your foot off the brake. Otherwise, you can hit the button, and then when you lift your foot off, you get a fairly strong amount of regeneration. Now, it won't bring the vehicle to a full stop like some of these systems will. There is no true one-pedal drive here, but leaving it on just means you're always maximizing that regen. Now let's dig into some numbers to see whether this 4xe is really worth it. So you saw in my final drive there, I managed 9 liters per 100 kilometers, and that was leaving my house with a full charge and doing over 100 kilometers to return the Jeep back to Stellantis. So for now, that's the first number I'm going to use. And we're going to compare that with a 3.6 liter V6 4-door Wrangler and the official rating for it, which is 11.7 liters per 100 combined. So if you take a 10,000 kilometer year at 9 liters per 100, and you assume that fuel costs $1.53 Canadian, that's the average here in Ontario today, that means you're going to be paying $1,377 for a year of running that 4xe. And of course, my year is 10,000 kilometers. Now, at 11.7 liters per 100, that same year is going to cost you $1,790, which means the plug-in hybrid only saves $413. And even if we take the least expensive gap between a 4xe and a non, it's still going to take you 8 years to pay back. So the numbers don't really make sense there. However, that was assuming 10,000 kilometers being driven at 9 liters per 100, using up all the gas. Well, let's say that twice a week you use 25 kilometers of all-electric range, and that's part of the overall 10,000. Well, that means that you're only doing 7,400 kilometers using the gasoline engine. So at 7,400 kilometers, assuming gas costs $1.53, you're talking about $1,018 to run. So now we're getting a little bit more savings, just over $700. But even at $700, it's still going to be 4 years and up to pay back this 4xe system. So I think after driving this thing for a week, looking at these numbers, what I realize is the electric part of this equation is still not that strong in this Wrangler. You have to be doing a lot of all-electric miles to make it make sense to pay all that money for the 4xe system. But this is a lifestyle question. If you do a lot of short trips and you think in a year, well, you might end up doing, 9,000 kilometers all electric, well, then it could make sense. But that's kind of where you have to get to. You have to be doing majority of your time in this thing all electric to make those numbers add up. Oh yeah, and I didn't even talk about the cost of electricity, because plugging the Jeep in isn't free either. The battery pack here is pretty small. It's not going to be a ton of money, but it's still going to be something. So that's another cost
we didn't even get into. At the end of the day, I like the Wrangler 4xE. I like the package. I like the way it drives. I just don't think it makes sense on paper. If you just want a great off-roader, you might as well still go get a gas-powered Wrangler. And I compared the 3.6 V6, not even the 2-liter turbo, which is more efficient, so you could get a more efficient version. Now, if we compared it to the 392 V8, well then I bet you'd save a little bit more money. Well, folks, we have come to the end of this one. Of course, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this Wrangler 4xE. I really like Jeep Wranglers, but I am having a hard time liking this 4xE after doing some of that math. So please let me know down there in the comments below what you think. As always, while you're down there, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member of the channel, and then come back here to Truck King to see what we are testing next. See ya.